Are you struggling with your reverse diet post show, or are you perhaps experiencing binge eating behaviors? If you are, then this video is for you. I really want to share just some strategies and tips that has helped me, that could hopefully help you overcoming the post-comp blues. And firstly, I just want to put a disclaimer out there that I am not a specialist or therapist by any means in this field. I just wanted to share my experiences when it comes to coming out of a show. And as we all know, that the post-show reverse dieting the process is probably harder than the prep itself. I would say it is harder than the prep itself, and obviously that's because we've been so regimented to the same nutrition every single day in prep, just eating the same or similar foods, and to get to that lean physique, probably our calories have been super low. And I just want to put it out there, and I keep saying this, that your physique at competition day, or anyone that's listening, it is definitely not sustainable at all. That competition physique is only for competition day. Coming out of that physique needs to happen if health is your priority. So understanding that is important. But as I mentioned, post-comp itself and the reverse dieting is hard. So I just want to share this with you. And I know how it feels, because we don't have a competition now, and it's like, what is next? And we just tend to now eat what we want to eat, and it gets to a point where we fall into this binge eating behavior because our body is just craving for food, because we've restricted certain foods for a long period of time during prep. And more often we feel bad because we overeat, and then we seek for more food and we eat more food, and before you know it, we're just digging deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's not a great feeling. And the next thing we want to do is we probably want to go to the gym and burn off excess calories, or restrict ourselves the following day, make up for it, and it's really, really unhealthy. And I say this because I personally, in my first show back in 2018, where after my show I just went into really bad headspace where I just couldn't control what I was eating. I was just binging on food, and I still remember vividly that time where I would just keep eating to a point where I just got sick. And then I felt bad for eating over my calories, and I just kept eating, and I just felt sick, and it's just not a fun feeling, and it's not a fun experience. So I know how it's like, and I really want to share with you the tips that I will share with you, because I don't want women to go through that, and that's how I developed a poor relationship with food, and that's how I also developed a poor relationship with my self-image, because I just kept eating. And I could say that within 2 to 3 months I've put on all the weight back. I probably gained about 10 to 15 kilos, so that's about 20 pounds or more within 2 to 3 months after my first competition. And it took me probably at least a year to really work through this phase and just undo, this work on my mindset, building that relationship. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not perfect, but I really want to share that because I know how it feels. And I recently competed in the WBFF. So I recently competed in my second bodybuilding show, which is about 2 to 3 months ago. And I could tell you that this time around is so much different than what it was back in 2018. It is so much better. I am in a much better headspace, and I'm not here to say that I'm perfect at it, that I'm nailing it, but I still do have my moments. I still do make mistakes. I still do have slip-ups, but I could tell you that my mindset and the relationship that I have with food and with my body image and everything like that is just in such a better place than what it was back in 2018. So this is why I just want to share with you what I have been doing in the last few months, strategies that I've been practicing myself that's sort of helped me manage and deal with this process much better. But with anything, it's still like, I'm not perfect, but I embrace this because I'm still learning and I'm still growing through this. But hopefully what I share with you can help you if this is your first time or if you are struggling. So yes, number one, first thing is to continue with the habits that you have been doing when you were in prep. So all the things that you were doing, such as getting your steps in, training, filling your foods with, hitting your protein target, your macros, and obviously not to the accuracy that you were doing in prep. Like, allow some flexibility. So still continuing with the habits and getting your steps in, which is important. So when I say habits, it's more of, getting good sleep. You're looking after yourself mentally, and that's through sleeping well, resting, being kind to yourself, following the habits, moving your body. And what I've been doing in the last, still up until this day, like, I'm still going out for my morning walk. That was what I was doing when I was in prep. I was just, every morning I would go out to get my steps in. And now I sort of shift my focus, rather than, getting my steps in for competing. Now it's getting my steps in because it's a habit. I want to continue with this habit, and it's just to move my body, and movement is medicine. So keep with the habits that you have been doing from prep, because once we stop a habit, it's really hard to get right back into it. And I think that this is where a lot of people fall when it comes to not competing anymore. They just tend to not adopt those habits. But shifting that perspective and continuing your habits for health, not just for a show, but for health. And often when you get outdoors, you're not at home and you're not thinking of food, you're just out getting your steps in. So it's better to get your steps in and then being at home and eating all the foods that you see in your pantry. So that's one strategy that could help you, is to get more movement in, continue with the habits. The next strategy is to not buy things that you will finish. What I mean by that is that obviously coming out of a show, you're not restricted to food anymore. Like, you can eat things now, like you've got more flexibility, and more often we go to the shops and we want to buy some sweet foods. For those that are like me, that enjoy sweet foods like chocolate, chips, donuts, cookies, and often when we go to the shops, we want to buy everything because we haven't had it in so long. So my advice and what I've been doing is that I just don't buy it at all, because I know that if I was to buy it, and even though at the time at the shop I would say I would only have one piece, or I would have 2 biscuits out of the whole packet, I could tell you 10 out of 10 times that does not happen at all. So basically I just don't buy it at all. I just eliminate that. Do not buy things that you will finish. And that sort of leads me to my next strategy, or a next tip that could help you when it comes to overeating on these kind of foods. Because when we eat these kind of foods, it just makes us want to eat more. Like, sugar addiction is a real thing. Like, there's this thing in those sugary foods that just wants you to just keep fetching for more and more and more. So to help with that is just to don't buy things that you're going to finish. The second point is that don't have the foods that you're going to binge on in your pantry. Just don't have it in, because I know that if it's in my sight, I know that I'll just finish it all. I'd like to think that I am getting better at it, like now to a point where I would like to think that I have a fairly good relationship with food, where sometimes I will have foods in my pantry, but I've just gone to a point where I don't feel the need to eat it. And that's because I've built on that skill in knowing self-control. Because at the end of the day, how I think of it is that the food will still be there tomorrow. So even if I finish it now, I don't have that scarcity mindset where I should finish it all. But in saying that, I know that in the past I would have struggled a lot. So not having those foods in your pantry, like chips, donuts, chocolate, can definitely help you, because if they're not in your sight, then of course it's going to help you not fish for those food. Because when you're coming out of a competition, all you're thinking of is just food, and you just want to eat. And when you get started, and when you have that lick of that sweet sugar food, it's just going to have this domino effect and a compound effect where you're just going to keep fetching for more of those foods. So, but if you have amazing self-control, and that's, I don't know, especially coming out of a competition, it's hard. So to help with that is to not have those foods in your pantry. And I know the last couple of points sounds super restrictive, that I'm not here to say to not buy those foods, but if you know that you are going to binge on those foods, then don't have it. To instead, what I advise is, and I still do this, where if there was a particular food at the shops that I really wanted, and I know that my family was going to come over to my place, or I would have friends over, I would catch up with a friend, I would buy it then, and then I will share it in that setting. So if I was with family, I would buy it, and then I would at least have, let's just say, like a box of chocolate. Like I would have a couple of pieces, and then, you know, I'll share it with my family in that setting. So that way I know that I'm not eating it all, I'm also sharing, because sharing is caring, and they would appreciate it as well. And at least I'm also having some of the foods that I wanted to have. Okay, so another strategy, especially when you're coming out of a competition, and to help you combat, you know, any sort of binge behaviors, is to limit your takeout food. So limit going out to eat. And I know this can be really hard for a lot of you, especially after competition, because we're in prep and, you know, we don't go out to eat. We're eating our Tupperware food every single day. And now that the competition is finished, probably our friends and our family is inviting us out even more. So I know it's hard, and we just want to enjoy all these foods and adventure and go on food adventures and everything like that. But, you know, with that being said, when often we don't know the calories that are in particular meals, it does add up, and it could really put you over your reverse calories. So, you know, with that being said, I'm not here to say to not eat out at all. Definitely go out and, you know, bond and socialize with your friends and family. Definitely, especially after prep. You know, prep it's a very lonely sport, and you're eating your Tupperware meals and you're saying no to all your friends and family when they go out to eat. And, you know, I'm not here to say to not do that. I definitely do encourage you to go out to eat with your friends and your family. But, you know, in saying that is just to limit, you know, your takeout, maybe once a week, or, you know, a couple times a week, and just being mindful in that regards, because as I said, like, though, it could really add up, and it could really put yourself in an excess of calories. And, you know, we know that once you eat out, you know, it all adds up. And, you know, you really want to just keep on eating, and that could really contribute to binge eating as well. So just be really mindful with that. And I know that some of you may be thinking, oh, well, you know, your friends and your family just want to take you out, and they wouldn't understand, and you'd probably feel bad if you say no. Just communicate with them and just educate them, because if they don't know anything, and in most cases they don't know anything about a bodybuilding prep, and they don't know the process that it takes to come out of a competition, because even though the competition is over, they may be thinking, okay, well, now there's no competition, she could just eat whatever she wants to eat, there's no, you know, there's no limit. And unfortunately, that is not the case. You want to, even though the competition is over, you still want to reverse out of that physique healthily. And when I say healthily, I mean just optimally, as optimally as you can, because at the end of the day, you know, it is for health. That physique is not sustainable, and you just can't shove yourself with all of these foods out of the blue. So there is a strategy, and to reverse out as optimally as you can for health. So if you educate or just let your friends and family know, I could tell you that they would be so supportive of you, and they would want the best for you if the ultimate aim is to get out of that physique as best you can. So for me, before my competition, I actually told all of my friends and family that I prefaced it with them, and I said, after my competition, you know, I want to do my reverse properly, because the last time I did it, I blew out, and I definitely don't want that to happen. And my friends have been incredibly supportive of me, and even now when we catch up, it's, you know, Ella, we could just, you know, eat your prepped meals as long as we could catch up. And that's the thing. So it doesn't have to be eating out at a restaurant. It could just be home cooked meals, and just spending time with your family, or it doesn't have to involve eating. If you want to socialize with your friends, it could just be getting outdoors and getting your steps in, or doing like a fun physical activity. So there's just so many options. You know, with that being said, limiting your takeout to help you through this process of your reverse dieting. And obviously with more time and when your calories are building up more and more, then yeah, we could definitely introduce eating out more. So that leads to my next point, which is to prep your meals. So meal prepping. And I know it's probably the last thing that we want to do coming out of a show, because we've just essentially been prepping every single day. Our meals are exactly to the T to get competition lean, and yeah, it's probably the last thing we want to do. But this has helped me massively in terms of sticking to my reverse diet. And when I stick to my reverse diet, and with every single meal that I have, I actually feel full from them, that I don't feel the need to binge on like those snack foods such as lollies and things like that, because I know that if the first main meal that I have is a croissant, for example, then I just want to keep eating those kind of foods, and I don't really feel satiated. I feel sick, and it's very different than having a full wholesome meal. So once I have a full wholesome meal, then I can enjoy a croissant, but I stop it at there because I'm already quite full, that I don't really feel the need to binge on that, if that makes sense. So now, because coming out of a comp, your calories should be increasing as your calories are building up. You have a lot more flexibility in terms of, you know, just adding variety into your meals. It doesn't have to be the same that you were doing prep. For example, you're just having rice and broccoli and rice, chicken every single day. I wasn't having that, but you just have more calories to play around with, and just be creative, have fun with your meals, and make sure that you're prepping your meals and something that you look forward to. So it doesn't have to be boring, and just, you know, play around with different spices and whatnot. And like I mentioned, it is probably the last thing we want to do right now, but if we can just put in a small amount of effort and time into preparing your meals, it is going to play a big role and make a difference in the long term. And especially if you really want to, reverse out of your dieting, reverse out of your comp physique phase, or go through this reverse dieting phase and, you know, help with the binge behaviors. So that's sort of what I've been doing. Okay, so the last thing that I really want to talk about, and it's probably the most important that I really want to share. It's not so much a practical tool, but it's more so mindset. And I really want to say that shifting your mindset is incredibly powerful. And what I mean is that, you know, because reverse dieting is hard, coming out of a show is hard. And, you know, I could say that I certainly have, it's been 3 months post show for me. And even though I'd like to think that right now, you know, I'm doing a lot, it's a fact that I'm doing so much better than my last show 5 years ago. But with that being said, I'm not perfect. I still have slip ups. I still make mistakes. I still go over my calories. There are days where I go over by a couple hundred calories. There are a few times where I've eaten up to 3,000-4,000 calorie mark, and I forgive myself. And I think that's so important, to forgive yourself. Just understand that we're human. Everyone makes mistakes. I've been in this space, in this fitness space, for the last 8 years, and I still am not perfect. I still make mistakes. But, you know, with that being said, from my experience and what's helped me is to really give yourself permission to make those mistakes, because we need those mistakes in order to learn and in order to grow. And I could tell you that for me to build a better relationship with food is to having gone through those experiences. And I'm really sharing this with you so that, you know, you could, build a better relationship with food if that's something that you're struggling with. That's why you're watching this video. Lean into it and see it in a light of learning lessons as opposed to feeling bad about overeating. So accept that you're just human and we all make mistakes. Forgive yourself. Be so kind to yourself, and just know that tomorrow is another day, is another opportunity for you just to get back on track. And if you hit your calories the next day, and if you're able to stop and acknowledge that, that is a win in itself. That is a massive win, because it's so hard, because our mind just wants to keep eating. But if you could just, stop and just think about, okay, well, I've overeaten. There's nothing else I could do. And this is how like my brain works. It's like if I overeat by a few hundred calories, I sort of stop and I sort of ask myself, I'm like, well, I've eaten over my calories. I'm not going to be a bitch to myself. Like, why? I practice what I preach, which is, being kind to ourselves. It's so important, being kind to yourself, because you are building a relationship with yourself as well. So being kind to yourself, I ask myself, okay, so I've overeaten, like there's nothing else I could do to uneat. I don't know if that's a word, but I don't know if there's anything that I could do to, not spit it back out. It's already been done. I've already eaten over. Okay, well, I've acknowledged that. Ask myself, like, am I hungry? Like, do I need to eat more? Like, is it just my mind, or is it just, am I feeling really full? Like, do I need to eat? Like, I ask myself these questions, and I'm really honest with myself, and I say, well, like, my mind wants to eat. Like, I'm chasing that, good feeling, but I'm actually quite full. I give it some time, and I just ask myself these questions, and then time passes and I'm like, okay, well, it's just gone. And like, even though I've gone over my calories and I've just asked myself if I was still hungry, and the thing is, I let time pass and then I don't eat. And like, that in itself is a massive win, and it's hard. It's so hard. So that is why mindset is everything. Shift your perspective. It's like, am I hungry? If not, is this serving me? If not, then I'm just gonna either keep my mind busy. I'll probably go out and get my steps in, or I'll probably go read a book, or just keep my mind occupied. So, with that being said, that in itself is a win. And even if you do, go over, ask yourself those questions. It's so powerful, but it's so helpful. So that in itself is a win. And even if you do, like I said, we're learning, and you only get better at it each time. The other thing that I wanted to say in regards to mindset as well is, if you see yourself as a healthy person, and I'm sure that, for you that's watching this video is a healthy person, because, that's why we compete. We compete for the right reasons, which is, we want to better ourselves. And, obviously there's a lot behind competing, which is, obviously we're in the health and fitness industry. So I see myself as a healthy person. I'd like to think that I am. Everything I do is for health, not just physically, but mentally, over everything else. I'm a really big advocate for mindset. So shifting the way you eat is a way to think of it, as a way of nourishing your mind and your body. So when you think of it that way, it's going to help you not binge, because every time I overeat and I just, in my mind, it's just straight away, I just want to keep eating. Like, I have chocolate, I want to just go out and buy, cakes, donuts. I just want to buy it all, because in my mind, I'm just like, really want that good feeling. But I ask myself, am I eating in a way that's serving me, that's nourishing my mind and my body? And like, more often it's like, no, the answer's no. So then I'm like, oh, okay, well, if the answer's no, then I'll just stop. So shifting your mindset in a way to eating in a way to nourish your mind and body. So that's just, these are the strategies that I've mentioned in this whole video that has helped me when it comes to coping this reverse strategy, or your reverse dieting, or even if you're not coming out of a competition, but if you are experiencing a binge eating behaviors, then hopefully these tips can help you as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be for bodybuilders that's come out of a show, but I also work with women that have a poor relationship with food, that experience binge eating disorders. And this is what I'm passionate about, because I don't want, and this is where we could develop poor body image issues. This is where it stems from, and I just hope that these tips and strategies can help you. And look, if you do find yourself in a position where you overeat, the last thing you want to do is feel bad about it. Just forgive yourself, be so kind to yourself, give yourself permission, and just take these as learning lessons, and just you will only get better at it each time. So I hope that this video has been incredibly helpful for you. And if you want me to discuss more topics around you want me to discuss more around this topic of binge eating behaviors or mindset, then please do let me know in the comment section. If you have your own experiences and you'd like to share, please also pop it in the comment sections so that we could help, each other through this period of this challenging period of binge eating, or just overcoming this sort of vicious cycle. So lastly, I just want to say that your mind is your most powerful asset, okay? And you could do anything, you could achieve anything that you put your mind to. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.